two outstanding quarterbacks, not good ones, outstanding. Uh, they certainly Burrow checks every blank. He's everything. He's got the physical stature. He's got the quick arm. He's got the good arm. He's got the accurate arm. He's obviously a leader and a competitor. My goodness, he can come back, come back, come back, and pretty much the same thing is true with Tua. Just an outstanding demonstration by college quarterbacks. I give them an awful lot of credit, and you got to give Bailey credit, the coach who came over from the Saints, Ogeron for hiring him, and Bailey for coming over and installing a totally new world in LSU football. But what a great game again, and also Chad, I think it's without question. We'd love to see these two teams play again. I think they will.
And I hope they do. And at this point, too, there's going to be a lot of football left. I think Alabama fans, what you have to do, as the last time this came around, they watched Stanford and Andrew Luck. They watched Brandon Weeden and his, old school body out there against Iowa State fail in a game they were a 22-point favorite. Boise State, maybe the hope of one of the underdog stories, miss a wide right kick against Nevada. And the next thing you know, you had to put Alabama back there. Now, I think a lot of those Bama fans watching the later games, because remember, Oregon had a bye. The two biggest teams that they have to watch right now, well, the three biggest, but the two biggest would be Oklahoma and Oregon. Those are the two teams they need to keep an eye on, because you would expect with the ACC schedule that Clemson's going to be there. You got to expect that LSU, even if they lost the game in the conference championship, would still get in over an Alabama. So they're hoping at this point that a team like LSU wins against Georgia, because if Georgia wins, then there's a better chance that Georgia and LSU would get to that title over Alabama, and that would be fair. I think everybody would say that, obviously, as fair. So the biggest game left would be Oklahoma and Oregon are the two teams, because if they start dropping, that final spot now looks a little more intriguing. Minnesota, I love the story. PJ Fleck, you called it. I called it on my show, and I'm glad that we could see the energy and passion. We talked about that, and that's what they had. That was a huge win. I'm happy for PJ Fleck and what they accomplished there. But if they lose a game to Ohio State or anybody at this point, they're done. And they still have Wisconsin, Iowa. They still got tough games left. It comes down to, if you're an Alabama fan, I think you need to look at Oklahoma and Oregon, as we said. And Oklahoma, did you watch the end of that one?
Well, did you see the did you see the ratings that came AP ratings that came out today?
Yes, I did.
LSU, Alabama's 4, Clemson 3, and Ohio State's 2. It's LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. I'm not so sure that won't be the ratings that come out from the committee later this week.
Well, even though it'll be the ratings coach, I think they put so much emphasis, and I've already seen the jokes, all the memes and the jokes, how they'll put Alabama, the committee is going to put Alabama 1, and this is a joke, obviously, but because they have that quality loss to LSU, and LSU and Ohio State don't have that quality loss against an opponent like LSU, so they're joking about the quality loss and things like that. But I think overall, we understand, if it's by the mindset of what we saw there, I still think, and I'll hold true to this, and I picked Alabama to win, and my wife smiled at me at the end when that happened, but here's the deal. I still think that Alabama's a complete overall, their team might be a better football team than LSU. Joe Burrow just found every single way to accomplish, and they played the most energetic, perfect football game that they could play. There's very few teams that, even when they're down that much, they're going to score on 90, 95-yard drives in like 30 seconds. But Alabama can do that to anybody.
Yeah.
It was just Joe Burrow was the best player on the field, and he did everything he could, not only to win it, but take care of business. And LSU deservingly won that game.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at it right now, all I'm talking about is
You're on, Coach. Yeah.
Is right now. Yeah. And I would have to say that LSU should be number 1 team in the country. I agree with that. I think I like Ohio State at number 2. I agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with Clemson at number 3. But, okay, they're there. I think Alabama has to come in there. Alabama's probably a better team right now than Clemson, but let's say Clemson 3 and Alabama 4. You could live with those ratings right now. Now, how somebody else would get in that foursome? Yeah, there's a chance that an Oregon and an Oklahoma could get in there, but not very good chance because the better chance is right now, just being very honest and forthright. LSU wins out, Alabama wins out. Both teams win out the rest of the schedule and go into the playoffs. That being the case, I think it's almost for sure Clemson wins out and Ohio State wins out.
Ohio State, by the way, and let's get to a little of that. We're going to talk more on the games coming up here. And 850-623-1330, you can weigh in on the game, and we'll get to our Pick'ems contest winner as well. We had a number of picks coming on, so the winner of our $25 gift card to Calvert's in the Heights, and also 2 hours of free shooting at the Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. We're going to have that for you coming up here. We'll make that announcement when we come back from the break. We'll get to more NFL. Busy week ahead as Coach, a lot of big stories in the NFL, and we'll touch on that coming up in the next segment. But I do want to talk about Ohio State because in light of this, they were taking on a Maryland team that a lot of people on this day weren't paying too much attention to. But this is a team that had a 42-0 lead at halftime, and even after, here's one of the things about imposing your will. When you pull your starters or you know you're just going to run the football out, but there's still nothing the other team can do to stop you, that is the epitome of being just dominant on both sides. Because what they're saying is, okay, you know you can load the box with 8 or 9 guys, but the difference is our guys are still stronger up front and pushing you over, and they continue to run all over Maryland in the second half, outscoring them 31-14 in a game that was pretty much over at half. Ohio State, they've not only looked good, but by the eye test, they're just destroying teams. And they did it again without Chase Young this week. If you're a fan out there of football, whoever you get this year in the college football playoff and the championship game, it is going to be a clash of the Titans because there are 3 or 4 very good football teams this year in college football.
I would agree with you. And if somebody said, look, Ohio State is, I feel very strongly Ohio State's number 1, how could you really argue with them? You know, it's Ohio State and LSU right there together, and but great. Your point is well taken. Some outstanding football teams will be in the playoffs.
Well, we're going to take a look here at all the teams up front as it will be exciting to see whether or not some of these teams move up. This can't be true. I hope it's not, but based on the All-State Playoff Predictor college football ratings, this is not. I thought this was maybe a last week's, but they have right now the All-State Playoff Predictor, which is the ESPN's what they're going by, just a tracker, has Ohio State 1, LSU 2, Clemson 3, and Penn State 4. Now, how do you even make that happen? Apparently, that will not. I hope it's not, but I thought this was maybe last week. I didn't refresh my computer. This is from 2 hours ago from Paul Saban of ESPN Analytics, but based on apparently, and it goes on to say, because they make this comment and then immediately they know where everybody's going to say, wait a second, what'd you say? So underneath it says, Penn State, based on their quality wins, would still be that's not going to happen, folks. No. Penn State, if you do that and you don't have Minnesota ahead of them, that's already a sham because Minnesota has 0 losses and they have 1. But I think at this point you are going to see Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, and Alabama. And I'm not sure what order, but this is going to be a very, very intriguing one because, Coach, like you said earlier, if they end up having a team like Oregon ahead of Alabama or they have Oklahoma ahead of Alabama, that's not good news for Bama based on that. Those 2 teams will only grow more confident if they win their conference championship. And Oklahoma's got Baylor. That will give them some brownie points. So this is very important to the fans coming up tomorrow that they see Alabama stay in that top 4 even with the loss. And frankly, I hope the committee does it based on you shouldn't penalize a team that much for losing to an incredible performance at home because I don't think anybody in the country that day would have beaten LSU the way that Joe Burrow played.
I have to agree with you. That was just outstanding. I mean, it was a Tom Brady performance plus.
When we come back, we'll take a look here at the winner of our Pick'ems contest. We'll also get to more on some of the other college football games. Good job by Florida in a game where it could have been a let-me-down game, but they dominate with just a dominant performance overall in a 56-0 win against Vanderbilt as that was from start to finish. Only got better for Gator fans that made the trip over to the Swamp. Also, Baylor pulling out another close win, and Notre Dame getting back on track with a nice win against Duke, beating the refs and also the coaching staff at Duke. We'll get to all the games and more coming up here. It's Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
It's time for some straight talk. You know those football players who are all talk, no show? Well, big wireless carriers aren't much different. Well, Straight Talk Wireless doesn't give you the hype, just the savings. For just $45 a month, you'll get the unlimited plan with 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G. No contract. All on the same 4G LTE networks as the big guys, but up to half the cost. Savings delivered right to your wallet. Only at Walmart. Savings may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they're the right hire. We'll also have a dolphin chatter excitedly in front of the perfect candidate. Okay, there's no dolphin. But skills tests, that's a for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Visit Indeed.com/promo today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
The Paul Feinbaum Show.
Everything you wanted to happen hasn't happened.
Oh, my gosh. That's all any of y'all want to talk about is Alabama.
You're really not understanding the conversation, but anyway, we can move on.
Alabama's dynasty has just begun.
Hold on a second, Charles. Somebody wants to talk to you.
I don't want to talk that compelling moron.
He's nothing but a lame-head old man.
2 till 5 every weekday afternoon. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You out of your freaking mind, cowturd.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola, 1330.
And welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Busy week, a lot to get to as we'll get some more NFL news and notes coming up here, getting back into college football talk. Crazy week in the NFL as well as Lamar Jackson making some crazy moves out there. Ryan Tannehill, what a comeback that was right there in Tennessee. The Jets, actually, Sam Darnold believes they have a shot right now to if they win out. So there you go. But I joked with him earlier. I wanted to call Sam and be like, Sam, but if you do win out, remember, Miami Dolphins hold the tiebreaker over you right now at 2-7. So, if it hey, you know what? It's always I'd rather have somebody hoping and praying, right? That's like the 40-year-old asking Santa for gifts. But we'll see at this point. We'll get to all those stories and more. Lots to get to in the NFL. But I want to get back into the conversation with what's happening in college football. So, Coach, you get that win right there. But I want to get back to Tua's ankle because it was something that was a lot of intrigue going into the week. But that first drive, they're just punishing down the field. It's one of those that, like the Notre Dame drive where Eddie Lacy steamrolled through and you just are like, okay, here we go. Alabama's imposing their will. And then he fumbles trying to make a play that he saw the guys in front. And you could clearly see he wasn't the same. Coach, do you feel that the ankle played a serious part from what you saw in the way Tua played?
Unfortunately for him, it did, I think, play a part, a rather significant part. He obviously could not move and take advantage of. He's not a sitting duck back there, but he couldn't do that. The other thing that it did was I think it hurt him on being able to even slide, and certainly it was difficult to run and throw. That was not his plant foot, so that was good. Mm-hmm. But he still, when he had to throw quickly, you still have weight on that other foot, that other ankle. So yeah, it limited his mobility certainly, and I think it hurt him some. But he's a great competitor, and I don't think anything could have kept him out of that ball game. And he played, my gosh, for a guy with an ankle like that, he played exceptionally well. Played exceptionally well otherwise.
It was, and after the game, a passionate win for a guy that truly is one of the team, one of the guys. I mean, when it comes to winning, Edo has always been about. He's a Louisiana guy. He loves his team, the passion. Inside the locker room, and this is a clean version for everybody, but Coach, as a coach that's been in locker rooms to celebrate victories, this was what Coach O had to say, and we'll get Coach's take.
Change the narrative.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
We're going to beat their in recruiting. We're going to beat their every time they see us.
Okay.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Wrong thing. What?
So he says that, and then Bama jumps on, and I'm sure you've seen this by now, Coach, and everybody is making now, deflecting from the game, and how such a horrible look at this. This is what I'm going to say, because you've been in times a billion more locker rooms than I have. I've had a chance to play at the high school level, and some of those places you get sent to the outhouse if they even have a locker room when you're in Catholic parochial school. But I'm telling you, it is something where you know what is said in that, if it's passionate, if it's meant with the demeanor to get you pumped. Coaches everywhere have motivated people. That was the biggest win of his career, and he makes that comment. Yes, for an Alabama fan, you don't want to hear Roll Tide blank you. However, it was, first off, it's in your locker room, your sacred territory. I've got no problem, and frankly, the only person I have a problem with is whoever released that video, because you shouldn't be doing that.
Well, that's what they get. That's what they get for letting the press in the locker room. Press should not be there. That should be
your one safe zone.
Well, listen, it should be, for lack of a better term, a more or less sacred zone for your football team. You're in there. Things can be said. You cannot have strangers in the room. I didn't allow anybody in the room. I don't care who it was. Anybody in there. If they were forced on me, I didn't say anything, because it's none of their business. I don't want them to hear it. That's between me and the football team. I think it's disgraceful to have that, but yeah, it was the biggest. It was the biggest win. Would have been the biggest win in many people's lives. The only guy that could have handled that without any emotion would have been Belichick. It's just Coach O got a little emotional. I have been guilty of that, maybe not to that extent, but I've been guilty of saying a few things in the locker room, and it's like our good chaplain, Father John Mannion, told the team one time. He said, they asked him how he could be in the locker room. I did allow Father John, how he could be in there when I had some things to say to him like that. He said, just know that the coach has to find some way to communicate with you people.
and the reaction is louder cheers after he says that, too.
Yeah.
So if you think the kids, nobody was like, oh, my goodness, my mama. Like, okay, it's a locker room of football and emotion. Your job, if you broke it down, is a lot of these guys and the passion of what Ed O coached from a defensive mentality is your job is to get to the guy and hit him as hard as you can. Now with rules, it's changed a little. But your physical job of why you get out of class, why you get recruited, why you make millions is to punish the other guy. And the energy to do that and the passion once in a while is going to is you're going to say a few words. And you know what? Take it. Nick Saban on the other side, how many times in the media has he said something? Here's the thing, too. If you're going to cast a stone at anyone, the last person on this earth should be Ed O. Because if I have to see one more, there's more, and I've done it myself, but more Ed O memes of what he says and making, this is the last guy that doesn't deserve the right to be like, oh, did he say something? Because every 5 seconds they're making fun of him for what he says. I heard somebody say, I've got his post-game interview. It's a keyboard, a cat walking across a keyboard, and then he says, go Tigers. So if you think about everything that people have said about Ogeron, he's the last one, so somebody should judge about saying anything just to motivate his team. And secondly, the people that pay his paycheck probably will give him a raise in Baton Rouge for hearing that. So I don't know. So as a business move, it wasn't a bad idea.
I just think about all the people that never wanted him hired and wanted him fired when they did hire him, But,
and you know what? Good for him. Good, passionate win. He truly believes he's not there to use this job to get more money, hopefully he does, but to get another job. This is where he wants to be. And it's very rare you see that in coaching where the heart and soul of everything about him is that team, besides a paycheck today. And that's great to see. And it was a great win for him and a passionate win. And LSU loves it. Now they watch the Saints lose the next day to the Falcons, but overall they love the weekend for what LSU accomplished.
Yeah. If you're from LSU, you're a football player certainly, football player or otherwise. But the Mecca is LSU. They bow to the Tiger Stadium. So, for him to be where he wants to be, your point is that's where any and every LSU kid going, especially the Cajun kids, that's where they want to be, for crying out loud.
And, Coach, I thought it was funny after the game, all the LSU players, and Saban's walking at that same time back to the tunnel, but at that moment, a bunch of LSU players after the game, they run over to the section right in the front row where all the recruits are sitting. And there's this lady, probably a 60-year-old, looks like the lady, grandma who serves cookies to everybody in high school when the kids come over. And she's like a 4'9" lady sitting there, and she's trying to crowd control the LSU players from running up there and saying, where are you going, LSU? Like telling all these recruits where you need to be now. And this one lady is like, okay, everybody settle down with her security pass. I thought it was pretty funny, but they got the point. That was as big of a win as you could possibly have, really, for a team on the road. In college football, if you look at road victories, that's got to be up there, and it would take too long to look at every one of all time, but that's got to be up there as one of the biggest road victories you can have in college football history.
It is a huge one. Well, big one for Florida this weekend. That's total domination of that football team, and a big win. We talked about the other day, a W is a W, and right now they're all very, very valuable. They're a valuable commodity because this could be, look, Florida is in line, not saying which one they're going to get, but they're in line to get one of the major bowls right now. There's a good possibility if they win out, which is, I think there's a good possibility they will win out. But if that's the case, my goodness, you can't buy that. Not only the prestige and the recognition and the boost to recruiting, but also the money that you're going to get. So it's big, and I think Trask continues to progress, and they're just they're a good football team right now.
Well, it also has a lot to do with the culture because, Coach, nobody would have been shocked at all if Florida would have turned around and won a game 21-10 against Vanderbilt. And the reason for it is Vanderbilt's not a good football team at all this year. They're back to being, hey, we're better than you at GPA in baseball. But at the same time, because of the way they battled so hard last week against Georgia, a lot of people would have been saying, okay, you know what? They that was the game. They're a little bit they're sagging, they're coming in. But that shows a lot about the culture of their coaching staff and also the players on that team. Because not only to win a game, but to shut out a team, you have to be up. You have to have your game face on and be ready to go full, the entire 60 minutes.
Right.
And to do that,
I think it was like only 14-14 at halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, they were up 14-0.
Yes.
I'm sorry, 14-0 at halftime. So another plus.
Best win in a decade at home and dominant. Those are the games Florida fans are used to seeing against inferior opponents. No more the Kentuckys and Vanderbilts, Tennessee sweating it out. They're beating these teams by 30, 40, and that's where Gator fans want to see because that's important on top of the tough games that you play. Got to give it to Baylor. I mean, Matt Rule, this has a lot to do with coaching. Also, I'm not going to, look, I went to Catholic school, so I'm going to keep this one out and not even laugh at this. But the reverse karma for everybody that says bad things will happen to bad people or bad situations. Well, Baylor went through some tough times about 5 or 6 years ago with what was happening, and for good reason. Looked just a lot of not good stuff. Well, the football gods they must have done some reconciliation from football because they've won now 3 games, Coach, in more than one overtime in their game. They won in triple overtime against TCU 29-23. They've won 2 other games in overtime when they've trailed even in overtime, and they did it again this week on the road. Baylor is silently 9-0, and they probably are going to be in the top 7 or 8 by the end of the week, maybe by the college football when it comes down to the playoff committee tomorrow. They're not passing the eye test as a lot of these teams of domination. But this team is now 9-0, and they just continue to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, they're having a great year, and my goodness, kudos to Rule and that coaching staff out there. They've done an outstanding job. Baylor, an unlikely team, quite honestly, an unlikely school to be in this position right now, but they are, and I give them an awful lot of credit. I like the way they're. In a way, I shouldn't say I like the way they're winning. In a way, I like the way they win because it shows that competitive edge that we're never going to let you out of here unless we're playing our best, unless we play enough to win, well enough to win, and that's the way they're playing exceptionally well.
And the good news is coming up here. If they do win out at this point, you could say what you want, but with basically when you know ahead of you, you've got games coming up here like Oklahoma, games with teams that you know if you win, you're going to get in. That's something that Oklahoma-Baylor next week. So coming up here this Saturday, Oklahoma versus Baylor, they'll find out a lot more. And I know a lot of and Bama fans. You can't really root for somebody in that game. It's going to be tough because as an Alabama fan, who would you rather see win, Coach? If Baylor wins, they go unbeaten, and an unbeaten team has a better case and point than a one-loss team. So if Oklahoma beats Baylor, that's a signature win for them. That might boost them ahead of Bama in that final spot. However, if Baylor wins, if they win out, that's going to be a really tough case, even though in the eye test, you would expect Alabama to be probably about a 14 to 17-point favorite over a team like Baylor.
Yeah, I think quite honestly, you're right, but I think quite honestly they may have to hope for an Oklahoma win because it's going to be one loss versus one loss, and their loss is going to in a game that came down to the final minute, an onside kick is going to be much more impressive, I think, than would be the Oklahoma loss.
The perfect scenario would be to beat Oklahoma and then lose to Texas the next week. So to eliminate both Oklahoma and Baylor from that conversation for out. But that's going too far down the road, and it's going to be a crazy week ahead for a lot of these teams. But you're right.
That could happen.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Look, Texas, they'll probably be either a pick or favored in that game. And Texas still has a good roster. They just have had a couple let-me-down games. Minnesota, I got to give a lot of credit. We haven't talked a lot, but, Coach, you called this. You called the victory. I called it on the sports drive, but this is your show, and you deserve the praise on this one. Minnesota, they were up for it. They were excited, and PJ Fleck, just overall, what a great job and what a great culture for people out there. The Minnesota Vikings got a good win, but that was on the road, making Jerry Jones, anytime he crosses his arms and grins. Good week for Minnesota sports.
It really was an outstanding week. But, what a big win for the University of Minnesota. I think first time since 1904 that they had beaten a team of that ranking and so on. And when their last national championship was 1941, I think. So it's been a while, and Minnesota's a great old traditional program that many have certainly long forgotten about. Glad to see them come back.
Now, two things to this. They beat them flat out outright. If you watch, I did watch the game, and they were the better team.
I watched most
they
of
were
the
better
game,
football team, and which is they have a 6'9", 400-pound lineman. Did you see that guy up there? I mean, that's anytime you get that guy, he was blocking three guys at one point. But he probably don't get him in the flats. I don't think they do too many screen setups for that guy in the flat. But overall, Coach, he's building a great culture. Who would not want to play for PJ Fleck? He'd be on the short list of guys. He seems like a guy of integrity. He's built everywhere he's gone. He's won. He's really setting a blueprint from what I'm seeing. And I know there's a lot of football and nothing off the field. Ignore the noise or what you think of him. But he's building a blueprint to me a lot like what Urban Meyer's done in his career at his age. Think about it. He went from Bowling Green to Utah to Florida to Ohio State. And like I said, I know how people feel about Urban in a lot of places. I'm just talking about the record and the way the teams get better when he gets there. None of it, because Fleck is doing it where a lot of people are saying he's doing it the right way and the culturally. So I don't want to compare the two. I'm talking about semantics of just football. It seems like that's the path after Western Michigan, Minnesota. So far, it's got a long way to go. It's got a lot of, but so far that's the sort of the path that I've seen from Bowling Green to Utah. I guess that's in a way fair. It's a long way. The story's not done.
But right. But he's done an outstanding job. I think everybody, we may be up for Coach of the Year for sure. He's got to be one of the finalists for that. To jump out there in front like they did early, I think was strategically a part of their offensive game plan. They expected to jump out early, and they did. And I think it shocked the heck out of Penn State when they got the big plays, the big chunk plays that they got. And got ahead of them early, and then they continued to keep them down. And but like I've told you before, I'm happy for Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I picked Minnesota because I felt like playing at home with all they had at stake and playing Penn State, an undefeated team. And I don't have a lot of confidence in Penn State. I think Penn State, of all the teams that are considered upper echelon teams right now, undefeated, they're the softest of all those teams.
They're Texas pretty much, and that's not a knock on them. But Texas and Penn State would be a good game, I think. They're two teams that have, they don't play a ton of defense. They can score some points, but they're both teams that aren't expected to win a national title. Lost some games. That's where I put them at. A Texas, maybe an Auburn, but Auburn's a little bit better. I would put Auburn in a little bit higher class, but Auburn Penn State might be a good bowl game. Something like that.
Yeah, but I think Auburn's a little tougher program than Penn State. That's my opinion.
Yeah, good opinion. When we come back, we're going to talk some more about the games going on. I'll tell you what, though. PJ Fleck ends up finding a way to beat all the games left, Iowa, Wisconsin, some of the matchups, and then they were to beat Ohio State. They better put a monument up for them real fast. Coming back for more, it's the Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM and 99.1 FM.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck, Bentley. That was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have antacid stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. Prilosec OTC. Just one pill a day will last a full 24 hours with zero heartburn. Kick your antacid habit. It's possible with Prilosec OTC.
Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
How good are PXG clubs? Golf writers describe them as absolutely remarkable and the best golf clubs out there. Our customers call them insanely good and say they live up to the hype. So what are you waiting for? Step up your game and enjoy golf more than ever. Call 844-PLAY-PXG, 844-PLAY-PXG, or visit pxg.com to book your custom fitting. PXG. Nobody makes golf clubs the way we do. Period.
Calling all Gator fans. Time to get down and dirty in the swamp.
Tony to the end zone. Caught.
Touchdown. Here comes Ramoso, and the Gators win. Jordan Matthews is a postseason hero. ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1 brings you Go Gators every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Go Gators on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1. Brought to you by the Holman Law Firm.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. It is, it's going to be an exciting time. We got a great game tonight, too. Usually a lot of times after a week like this, we're never enough football, but you're like, all right, I'm satisfied, unless you're a Bama fan. But you might say, I'm satisfied. What a great weekend of games. Had so much fun watching them, tailgating, having, the passion of watching all those. And then you get San Francisco, Seattle tonight. So right back at it, Coach. Great football game tonight.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, great football game is right. And I'll tell you what, this San Francisco football team now, I've said since before the season started that I like the way they're being put together. I like their quarterback. They have made some good moves not only in the draft but also strategically. They've made a couple of good moves with free agency. They're a strong football team right now. They can literally substitute. They have so much depth in their defensive line, defensive front seven. They can literally substitute a whole defensive line, take them out, all of them, not piecemeal, and put in another whole defensive line and not lose a step. They are really have some outstanding depth there, and they're doing a great job. I mean, I don't know how many sacks they're averaging a game, but they got to be right up there with. And that Bosa kid is everything that anybody said he might be. He's tremendous.
Well, and two, home field advantage is so key in the playoffs. And when you look at it right now, New Orleans opened up a big door. And I know we're only after 9 games for most of these teams, but by the Saints losing that game to Atlanta, they're now 7-2. So if San Francisco wins this game and gets to 9-0, that they got to feel pretty comfortable, especially Seattle dropping to 7-3, that they're now pretty much the generals going forward, and they control that path. Because you would say, and this is how I would feel right now, if I had to pick a playoff game, and regardless of yesterday and the loss to Atlanta, and it happens sometimes, but if you had to pick today, I would say if New Orleans played San Francisco in the Dome after what happened last year in the playoffs, I would give a slight edge to New Orleans. If the game was played in San Francisco on the West Coast, I'd give the slight edge to San Francisco. So, I mean, that's just my opinion, but I feel that it's going to be key down the stretch to see who wins the NFC based on that. And not counting Minnesota out, I'm not counting any of these teams out, but based on that, home field is going to be huge in the NFC, and that's a huge step. So this game's big for a lot of reasons.
Well, there's no question about that, plus the bye. You know, it's just the advantages are tripled. So there's no doubt that's a good point, and I'm not sure that we would be forced to pick that game right now.
No, we got plenty of time.
But I would say that on the surface right now, those would look like two good picks. A home field meaning that much. It's going to mean at least 3 points anyway. But when you throw in the bye, it could mean more than that. So, what a heck of a race! And we're going to be talking about it, these games here. But don't forget Minnesota. And
what a big win,
and don't forget Philadelphia. And Philadelphia had a bye, but let me tell you, they're not a bad football team now.
You might. I mean, look, if you're a Minnesota fan, you should be getting together with Minnesota people this week for like a tailgate party. They're already usually friendly, nice people. I have about 6 or 7 friends that are Minnesota, and all of them are the nicest people. And I hope they're getting together for like a potluck dinner tonight or something, because they should celebrate the week that was, the Gophers and the Vikings. That's both huge wins for their and a big win. Anytime you get Jerry Jones wanting to say something else, but all he could say was like, yeah, Mike Zimmer. I don't know how many times he mentioned Mike Zimmer. I'm not sure if that was like code to, hey, Jason, if you want to pack your things and we'll just put Mike Zimmer on Dallas. I don't think Mike would take it, obviously, right now, but that's going to be – I'm sure there's going to be a lot of money thrown his way. What would you – I mean, that's not even a hypothetical, so we have too much to talk about, but it was funny how Jerry Jones mentioned Mike Zimmer and how great job he did like 80 times during the press conference, being like, you want us to switch locker room plates or something like that? Because, that's how the game went. And clearly in that game, Coach, since we're talking NFL this segment, I want to say it's not even a question. Dallas fans sometimes will be, because there's more of them, will be louder or they'll let people know about their players a little more. Dalvin Cook is a better running back than Elliott, and he is also right now, currently, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL. With Christian McCaffrey. I mean, but McCaffrey does other things. Straight running back, Dalvin Cook to me is the best running back.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. I think he's an outstanding running back. The amazing thing is he weighs 210 pounds, and now he can run through tackles. Arm tackles don't get him down. And usually you're talking about a 230, 235-pound guy that's going to run through those arm tackles. But he's 210 and can do it. He's got tremendous strength and speed. You know, I was surprised at how much kick he has once he gets beyond those arms and the line of scrimmage. He's really got some kick. He takes those next 6-7 yards before you can get somebody to him, and he's just he's a great runner, great sight, adjustment, just feel for where to run with the football. He's elusive. He's got it all.
And he's a bright spot for Florida State fans that have been, at least they get to watch the NFL and be like, oh, at least they can have some fun for Dalvin. A lot of people like Dalvin, as they should. A lot of people said the best running back they've seen at Florida State, and that's a compliment because of Warwick Dunn and some of the greats that have come through there. But Elliott, almost 200 total yards. That fourth down go-ahead, to your point, you have to have confidence in your running back to do a pitch to the right on fourth down by the goal line against a pretty solid defense. But they had confidence, even if he got initially hit, that he was going to find a way into that end zone. And he did. And he turned that game. I almost texted you at that point watching that, but I knew it was about 10:45 and a respect factor of the time. But I knew you were watching that. I was like, Coach, that looked like a play call. Coaches smile about, because they said, we're better than you. We're not going to go all fancy. We're just going to go right at you on fourth down. And because a lot of people were telling him to kick the field goal, and he said, no, we're just going to pitch it to Cook, and he ran right through him and into the end zone. A good job by the blockers too. They did an awesome job up front. And Ham. I mean, not too many people know who Ham is, but he's one of the rare guys they still use in packages as a fullback, and he's done a great job. And his name.
He's done a good job. Good job.
Looking at it, Mari Cooper, by the way, wins the award for unstoppable plays in leagues. If he does that with the tiptoes of how they practice that on the sidelines, that's an unstoppable play. Every single time they throw it to, because he's almost 3 yards out of bounds when he catches that with his feet. And he did it 4 times in the game. But it's flawless. Now, you have to have a quarterback that works on that with you.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Amari Cooper, what he did, some of those, there was 3 times where everybody at home was like, is that a catch? Even the one in the end zone. Even it took the ref right in front of it about 3 seconds to put his hands up. And everybody was like not ready to celebrate. But Amari Cooper is one of the special ones out there. He's one heck of a football player.
Yes, he is. And he's made a heck of a difference for Dallas since he's been there, too.
But Minnesota, kudos to them, now 7-3. They needed that win. Coach, beating a team with a winning record on the road for the first time in almost 2 years, 0-9-1 before that game. So a huge win for confidence. We always talked about Minnesota being a great team at home. You picked Minnesota to win this week. You've had confidence in this team, and that was a win for a lot of reasons, because if they're looking like they're a playoff team the way they're playing, and at the same time, though, if they're going to do it, they're going to have to win road games because they're not going to get home field advantage. So having that chance, that was a huge win for him, a statement game against Dallas.
Oh, it was huge, absolutely huge. Listen, this is, again, those teams that we've named already, they're going to be in a dogfight to make the playoffs here. But Minnesota has strength. When you look at their football team, they have the ability to play well defensively, well enough to beat you. They are sound up front, pretty much sound up front, with offensively and defensively. They have some people aren't as high on Cousins as I am. I'm not high on Cousins as high on him as I am some other people, but he's not a bad quarterback. I don't think Cousins is a bad quarterback at all. In fact, I think overall he's a pretty good quarterback. He's better than most of the other quarterbacks in the league. They have when they get Thielen back, they'll have 2 of the best receivers in the league and a good tight end, and my gosh, we've already talked about what a running back they have. So Minnesota is, from top to bottom, not a bad football team. They could beat anybody. And I feel pretty much the same way about Philadelphia.
And they showed it yesterday. A big win right there. Dalvin Cook is a guy that continues to run, and it's fun watching because football, and no matter what kind of play, we love seeing high-scoring games. Some of us, I mean, you would say more people, unless you're a coach. But when it comes down to the scores and the way it's played, anytime you can impose your will on another team, that's what we love to see. And yesterday, they didn't do anything fancy. They said, we're going to give the ball to Cook, Mattinson, all the guys, and we're going to run right down your throat. And there was nothing a good defense at home could do. I mean, they ran them over, and there was nothing they could do. And that, to see that, it sets up the play action. It gets wide receivers more open down the field. And just the whole game plan. Even they had Jerry Jones at a loss for words. After the press conference, he's just like, look, Minnesota played great. We tried. We had our shots, but kudos to them, which you'll never get from him.
And Cousins hit some big passes for
he did.
Timely
huge
passes. But the main thing was the run game. They went in running off the bus. They said we're gonna run the ball regardless of what happens, and they did. Now, not always does that happen. And I can give you one example. I can tell you one example that. We said we were all the coaches all week. We're playing somebody, and my gosh, this run is there are 2 or 3 runs here that we could just run all day. We don't have to do anything else. Let's just run the football on them. It was a bad rainy day, and so we go over there the first half. We haven't gained the length of our bench we're sitting on, and so anyway, at halftime, I heck with this. We're not running another time. We're going to throw every time we get the football. We're throwing every down. And we did. We came back and won the football game.
Well, spoken like a, that sometimes you got to make adjustments. That's the way to victory, and a big one right there. Pac-12 has suspended refs for Washington State. Actually called it on the wrong guy. I'm sure Mike Leach was happy, but Coach, just getting breaking news on that. They have now been hired to be the Saints playoff refs for New Orleans Saints home games this year. So Pac-12 has hired them. I'm sure after they suspended a ref got suspended. That's a big pivotal turning point in our country. So when we come back, we're going to get some more on the big games in the NFL. Our Pick'ems contest winner. Congratulations, Jesse, the winner of our $25 gift card to Calvert's and 2 free hours for 2 people at Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Jesse's score 42-37 in the 46-41 win for LSU. So she had 5 points right, just a few off. So congratulations to Jesse. We had 41 people, and she had sorry about that, Jesse. Look, just Jesse has won right there. Look, it's one of those Sam Alex. I'm just saying how it is. Coming back for more right here. It's Talk Football with Coach K.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Dude, it's game day, and I'm fired up that football is back.
I know, but I'm bummed they don't show my favorite team on TV around here.
All right, well, what about that place Calvert's? They're a really cool English pub-style restaurant, and they have a really good drink menu.
Yeah, but what about the game?
Don't worry, they have the NFL Sunday ticket and plenty of TVs, so we can watch any game that we want.
Ooh, I just looked at the menu, and that Abbey Road burger is calling my name.
Calvert's in the Heights Restaurant and Bar, 3102 East Cervantes Street, calvertsintheheights.com.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range, Highway 29 in Car City.
This year, the Home Depot can help bring the holidays home for free with free delivery on online holiday decor like artificial Christmas trees, big, small, white lights or multicolored, 140 varieties. Pick one out and we'll deliver it over the river, through the woods, right to your door for free. Free delivery on online holiday decor only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only. See store for details.
Do you think all premium fuels are the same? Well, your engine doesn't. New Shell V-Power Nitro Plus helps keep your engine running like new because it's engineered to defend against 4 main engine threats: gunk, wear, corrosion, and friction. So next time, choose Shell's most advanced fuel ever. It's fuel for thought. And engines that continuously use Shell V-Power Nitro Plus premium gasoline.
Talk football every day with Pensacola's own Coach K.
Credit a great performance by Garoppolo. And I love the way he throws the football. He's got all the things going for him.
Every weekday, noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1. Welcome to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1. Pensacola's home to the best talk in sports, new and improved. We are ESPN Pensacola, 1330 and FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station, your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back. Talk football with Coach K. Couple minutes left. Roll Tide Radio coming up as we'll continue to talk some Alabama football and also get into more of the big games. Derrick Henry, if you're an Alabama fan, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's one guy, Coach, if he's on the right system in the right time. Now, he's not as elusive, but as a running back, he's up there on that short list of guys that you just want touching the football. 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he's just only getting better with his career.
Well, that's true. Speaking of an Alabama back, what about Jacobs?
Oh, incredible. And Mark Ingram is doing good for Baltimore.
And Ingram's doing well, but Jacobs is lighting it up.
I don't think he made as many friends. It depends. Well, it depends how you vote, I guess. But when Mark Ingram blamed Trump for the home loss for Alabama, so that did not need to be said, I'm sure, for anybody.
Oh.
Your facial reaction's enough. I think that's how everybody heard that. I would hope thinks the same. Trump, regardless of what you think, and maybe he helped his friend out saying you're fired down in Arkansas. But we'll see, because had nothing to do with the loss at home. Let's stop with the excuses. Coach, looking forward to talking some more with you coming up here, and thanks for joining as always.
Yeah, we'll be glad to do it.
All right, coming up, we'll get to more on Talk Football and Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. If you would like to be a part of ESPN Pensacola as a sponsor or promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000 or visit our website at ESPNpensacola.com.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. I'm Davis Allen with your sports update. The Argos football team fought back against the number 1 ranked Valdosta State Blazers, down early 20-0, managing to bring the score up to 20-14, but they would eventually fall to the number 1 ranked Blazers 26-21, suffering their second loss of the season and their first loss in Gulf South Conference play. In local hockey news, the Pensacola Ice Flyers swept the Birmingham Bulls during their weekend series, defeating the Bulls in Birmingham 4-1, and then back in the hangar defeating the Bulls again 3-2 in overtime. In the NFL, Dalvin Cook racked up 183 yards from scrimmage and rushed for the go-ahead touchdown as the Minnesota Vikings defeated the Dallas Cowboys 28-24 in a key clash between NFC playoff contenders. Dallas was down early in the game 14-0, but they did go on to take a 21-0 lead on Dak Prescott's third touchdown pass of the night, but Minnesota responded with a long drive capped by Dalvin Cook's 2-yard touchdown run late in the third quarter, then converted the ensuing 2-point try to go up 28-21. The Green Bay Packers moved to 8-2 after their 24-16 win over the Carolina Panthers. Aaron Jones rushed for 3 touchdowns for Green Bay, which preserved the victory by stuffing Christian McCaffrey just short of the goal line as time expired. And a couple of notable upsets on Sunday as the Atlanta Falcons, they ended the NFC South leading New Orleans Saints 6-game winning streak with a stunning 26-9 victory in New Orleans, and the Tennessee Titans rallied for a 35-32 win over the Kansas City Chiefs. In college football, LSU created some distance atop the AP Top 25 poll rankings, beating Alabama on Saturday. LSU had 12 first-place votes in last week's poll, but with the win over the Crimson Tide, that gave them 54 first-place votes in Week 12's AP Top 25 ranking. Ohio State comes in at number 2 as Clemson moves up to number 3. Alabama only fell back 2 spots. They're now at number 4. I'm Davis Allen with your sports headlines for ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Stephen A. Smith here. If you're like me, you have a mortgage and a family who depends on your income, then you need to protect the ones you love with life insurance. Life insurance can help pay off a mortgage or send the kids to college. It's peace of mind. Think you can afford it? Chances are Select Quote can help you get it for less than $1 a day. Select Quote comparison shops up to 10 highly rated companies, including Prudential, Banner Life, and Mutual of Omaha, and others, to find you the company with the best rates. For example, Select Quote could find a 35-year-old man a $500,000 policy for under $21 a month. That's less than $1 a day. Select Quote's breakthrough technology allows them to quickly match you with the best insurance company to find your best policy. Plus, quotes are free. Start protecting your family today. Call Select Quote at 1-800-601-6992. That's 1-800-601-6992. Or go to selectquote.com/Smith.
Get full details in the example policy at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes. No credit, bad credit, bankruptcies, no problem. Over 250 vehicles in stock. Third row SUVs and trucks. Everyone's approved. Gordon Auto Wholesale is the bank and can help you get into a nice, clean vehicle. Carfax checked. Need a new car? Gordon Auto says yes. Can't buy one from the other dealers? Come see Gordon Auto Wholesale on Palafox just 2 blocks south of Airport. Or call 479-9200. That's 479-9200.
There's a lot going on right now, and broadcasters are on the ground covering all of it, bringing you the weather, the traffic, and breaking news, all while entertaining you 24 hours a day. Someone needs to tell you what's going on around the world and in our hometowns, and that someone is us. We are free radio. We are always there. We are broadcasters. Visit wearebroadcasters.com or text radio to 52886 to learn more. Furnished by NAB and this station.
And welcome in. Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Coming in to host this show this week, I was going to glad you're with me, Coach, on this one. As when I was like, I talked to my wife, I was like, she was like, got the shows going on. I was like, yep, I host a show called Roll Tide Radio today, so it should be fun. Sitting there knowing that everybody knows I'm married to an LSU wife. I will keep it consistent with what the game was. It was a good football game, and look, Alabama is one of those teams that even though it hurts right now, nobody that was an Alabama fan sat back and remembers as much if you ask them the year they won the national title against LSU. What game do you remember more? It's the national title game, not the 9-6 game. They're okay with that more based on they got another shot. If Alabama finds a way to get there, which they have a legit chance, a lot of people think they can, if they get back there and they find a way to win against Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, whoever they play, this will be a distant memory. But for the time right now, it hurts. It was at home, and they got beat. They actually physically got beat by a guy that showed up every third down conversion. Every time it looked like the lights, the HD lights, started to go off, and you're like, oh, here we go. This is that moment. Joe Burrow found a way to make the play. Edwards-Helaire, too. Got to give him credit. He did a great job as well.
Yeah, well, he did a good job, but what a great game. It really was a great game. I know some Alabama people who don't want to hear that, but I'm sincere. From a coaching standpoint, from an entertainment standpoint, the whole ball of wax, it was a great football game. Now, I personally think that these two teams are going to meet again. Mm-hmm. I think it would be terrible to think about not having these two, as good as they are, as well as they played, and the type football game it was. It would be a terrible slight to the American football public not to have these two teams play again.
Coach, there was a lot of things that happened that you don't, and it's going to get overlooked and lost in the mix because the second half became a thriller. There was 34 combined points in the fourth quarter. Here, to put that into perspective, last year there wasn't 34 points even scored in the game. So there was more points in the fourth quarter this year than the entire football game last year. It just goes to show you that the offense and the air raid that was possible. Joe Burrow passes for 398. Tua passes for over 400. Burrow was more consistent throughout the game, and it showed. But both of them made the big plays right when it looked like it might be over. An 85-yard touchdown to Devonta Smith. I actually looked over to Brittany, and I was like, it's okay. She was like, no, it's never over with these games. I'm like, no, it's 12 points. And she goes and hanging out with Leighton because Leighton was doing a puzzle with Moana, and I look over, and she's like, how's it going now? Like 10 seconds later, I'm like, you don't want to know. But it was an 85-yard touchdown, which should never happen. As a coach, though, regardless of a great play, because Devonta Smith did that against Georgia in a spot where in the national title game, it was Tua to Smith, that usually people say that should never happen. But, Coach, as a head coach, don't you look at that and say, regardless of athletes, that should never happen? That play should never be allowed, an 85-yard touchdown at the end of that?
Well, if you're a defensive coach or it's against your team, no play should ever happen. No bad play should ever happen. You know, I mean, a 1-yard gain should have been shut off at the line of scrimmage.
But how was there not help on that over the top?
Well, they weren't in a defense that they were in a single high, one high, meaning a free safety in the middle of the field. He's not going to get over there to cover down the sideline, and it was the corner had him all the way from the line of scrimmage to the goal line. and he just ran by him. You're talking about great athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference was they had a great receiver with good hands who could outrun just about anybody on the field, go down and exhibit his speed and tenacity against a cornerback who was a good football player, and a quarterback in Tua who excels with his accuracy on deep passes. Put the ball right on the money. I mean, it couldn't have been delivered if he'd taken it down and handed it to him like a baton. It couldn't have been more perfect. And the guy scores with it. So that's what you're faced with. Now, it's hard to defend that. You say, why shouldn't it have been defended? The only way that could have been defended is if that particular cornerback had played it better, or, Chad, hear me closely, had the ability to play it better, because he may not have had the ability to play it any better.
And that's a good point right there, Coach, that a lot of people, as you said, sometimes a great athlete's going to find a way to make plays, and that's what he did. But I'm telling you, in a game where there are a lot of fascinating stats with this game. For the Alabama Crimson Tide, they had dominated LSU before, but this game was different. And it was by a quarterback and a coach and a team that watched themselves last year. In a game, remember, they were third in the nation at that point, watched just getting dismantled, just overpowered, 0 points. And that's what, to me, makes it such a great story, too. I love a good comeback story, one that is genuine, not if Aaron Hernandez would have came back, but a comeback story that's genuine with, all Joe Burrow went out there and they learned. Joe Brady comes in, the mindsets. But when you look at LSU in this game with Alabama, 1,000 combined yards in this game on offense. It was 559 and 541, exactly 1,000. And the Tigers had scored. It took them 6 games before this one against Alabama to score 46 points. 6 games combined, and they did it in one. In this, with their offense, they found a way. Alabama, they also proved in this game, which was important because the loser of this game, it was very vital to the overall picture with the committee making the selections going up, that, Coach, they didn't just, if they lost, they also proved that, hey, we might have lost to a really good football team, but we're also a really good football team. And I think in the loss, Alabama also proved that.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. And Alabama's an outstanding football team. Hey, who would bet on either way if they played again tomorrow, especially on a neutral field?
Yeah.
Now, there's something I think people should keep in perspective. It's like anybody else who jumps on the bandwagon for one thing or the other, or one person or the other too soon. The reason that LSU has improved to that extent, and you say last year they didn't score a point, and if they'd had the same offense, they probably would not have scored a point this year. Okay? The introduction of a pro-style offense, being able to productively throw the football with someone who is as skilled as Burrow, with receivers who are skilled. You have to hear the whole thing now, because it's a composite. It's not just one thing, and this is my point. You will have people in years to come. It would be doubtful that LSU or any team is going to have the assemblage of talent for throwing the football that they have right now. Right now, with Burrow and these receivers that they've got, and a line that can protect them. Okay, so in years to come, if they're not able to throw the ball as successfully as they are now, people are going to say, "Oh, if they throw the foot, they don't know how to throw the football, so they can't win." Listen, at some point in the future, it may be good if they don't throw the ball but 2 or 3 times during the ball game and run every down. They'll be more productive running with the football. Okay, so it could come to that. I'm not saying it will, because I always believe that a good passing game and a good running game together, and the balance really make you the very best. But anyway, my point is, and Alabama could be looking at the same thing too, because I don't know that they're going to find somebody who can put the ball on the dime down the field as well as Tua does it. So anyway, we're watching something here that is a spectacle for both teams, something very unusual, coming to fruition at the same time, and they're playing each other.
Yes, and a fascinating stat throughout because we have so much to work with Alabama. Like we've said before, they had Nick Saban going into this game had more titles, championships, not like claimed in the paper like my team that lost to Tulsa this week, but actual titles, 5 of them compared to home losses, which was 4, which is fascinating. But here's another one. I love with technology today, there's a lot of nonsense, and everybody in their mom's basement can even write a blog these days. So, I mean, there's a lot of crap, but there's also good stats. And one of them was fascinating, Coach, when Alabama quarterbacks under Saban throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and starting running backs, have over 140 yards and a touchdown, which Najee Harris, 19 carries, 146 yards and a touchdown, to 418 yards and 4 touchdowns. On games like that at home, the average score against their opponent would be 51-7. So that goes to show you in games that Tua, if you just took the stats and we just gave you Alabama's stats, Tua 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, Najee 146 yards and a touchdown, the average scores of games at home are 51-7. They got beat 46-41. So it just goes to show you how much that it took for LSU to win this. This was a true, we did and that's why when Ed Orgeron and all those guys are crying and the passion they put out, that's like those movies 300 where it's like, you know what, we're not stopping. We're going to figure out. And even with the lead, they knew it wasn't going to be easy. Yeah. I mean, there are very few games that people are still sitting there. I watched it with some LSU fans, a bunch of them, and it was not one of them, and not me either because I know Alabama and how good they are.
Yeah.
It's 33-13 at half, and everybody was sitting there like, okay. No, there was no celebrating or going to grab popcorn or anything. There was like, got another 30 minutes here. And it's exactly what happened. I mean, Alabama had a chance. It was 40. They were right there in the mix. But Burrow just found a way to be so consistent. And for purposes of the NFL draft, if you're a team today, is it clear based on that, yes, Tua wasn't 100%, but is it clear to you if you've got that number 1 pick now that if you had a choice between Burrow and Tua, you would take Burrow after what we've seen?
I'll tell you, they're both going to be right there, and based on what we've seen, which is, keep in mind, this is so
their script's
early.
not written either.
No, there's so much more that has to be done to decide who would be the number 1 pick there. That guy is going, I think it looks as though right now, if you just had to take, and it would be a hair trigger type pick on this, you might take Burrow number 1 right now. It might be based on the fact that he's probably 3 or 4 inches taller than Tua. May have a little more experience now with the pro passing game, which he did. He really handled exceptionally well. But both of them, could be number 1, number 2, and interchangeable.
Yep. And Justin Herbert's getting better at Oregon as well.
Herbert's getting better at Oregon. They're going to be 3 we know of, and I think Fromm will be 4. I think Fromm he may slide to the second round, late first or second round, but I like him too.
And what you're seeing from Georgia is pretty clear. There are a couple things, and I watched that game where Missouri there was no Kelly Bryant in this, and they're already they've taken a step, obviously, in the wrong direction. But Georgia in the game, their defense is really good. But you can watch right now a team in Georgia that is getting more confidence because Jake Fromm is working with a lot of these guys for the first time this season, meaning that you watch what Hardman's doing, you watch what Nada, all these guys that were his number 1 targets are all in the NFL now. So you can see he's gaining more confidence with routes, being on the same page. I mean, people don't understand that at home. You've been there as a quarterback and also as a coach. People don't respect, I don't think, enough, because I played quarterback and I was a pretty good pitcher and a pretty good athlete growing up as, throwing the football. But I'm telling you what, even with nobody, if you're just out there in no pads and throwing in the yard, you can throw a ball straight to somebody. That's how people do it at the park. But if you tell a guy to do a quick slant and you have to hit a spot and not the player, that's not an easy thing. Imagine doing that with a 6'5", 330-pounder breathing down your neck, and with you can barely see out of your helmet with a crowd of 90,000 trying to throw that football. What Jake Fromm's doing right now is you can see just by the patterns and the way he's throwing, he's getting more confidence every week with his receivers. And that's scary for the rest of the NFL because the rest of college football, because guess what? Georgia could have been argued the last 2 seasons that they were just as good or better than everybody. The 2 games they lost were games that they had the lead against Alabama, and Alabama came back to beat them. No. So Georgia, everybody wants to sort of say they're done. Georgia's not done, even though they messed up against South Carolina. But they're –
Well, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. Had it been any other year where you didn't have an LSU and Alabama as potent as they are, Georgia would be have mastery over the Southeastern Conference right now. It's I mean, sometimes it's very unfortunate what years you grow up in, you know, and they're having a tough time, as good as they are. And my goodness, I give them a tremendous amount of credit over there at Georgia. They're doing a great job. Got a good football team, good coaches. They're doing everything right. But you've got now LSU, and, of course, you've got Alabama. And I think it's going to be difficult for Georgia to beat either one of them.
Georgia is sitting there right now. They've got Auburn this week, so it doesn't stop right there. And I saw the initial spread on that. It is Georgia by 2, but that one is in Auburn, in Jordan-Hare, so should be exciting as it doesn't stop at this point of the season. It always gets exciting around November and December in the SEC. And Georgia this week, Jake Fromm just was consistent. They were 27-0 win, but if you haven't watched it, you saw the game against Florida too. Yeah. Getting Lawrence Cager back, this guy's people are salivating over him in the NFL. If you look at the size, 6'5", 230 wide receiver, he's got that size and that strength that you could put a little weight on him and be one of those hybrid tight ends today.
Well, he's a tweener, you know?
Yeah, he is, and that's the NFL loves that today.
Yeah, they love it. They love it.
Evan Ingram.
You may not want him any heavier than that. He's obviously going to get 5 or 6 pounds heavier, but around 240 is plenty big enough that you can get in there and handle some of the down blocks and the pulls and the the old wham,
like what Jarwin does for Dallas.
Yeah,
a guy like that,
and like what Gronkowski did for New England.
Yep, a lot of those guys, those Jordan Reed, Trey Burton, Evan Ingram style guys. Yeah. Cager could be that, and Florida fans weren't happy when they heard he's coming back, and he showed it in the last couple of weeks. When we come back, we'll get to more on the Alabama Crimson Tide on Roll Tide Radio. We're going to talk a little more about what's going on in the NFL. Coach Kay Stevenson joining us. It's brought to you by Gordon Auto Wholesale. When everybody else says no, they say yes. No credit, bad credit, don't sweat it. Gordon Auto Wholesale is there for you to get you in the car. Look, maybe you sat there, you didn't think you could get to the holidays, like Vegas vacation with Chevy Chase. You couldn't. Your car was breaking down on you. Your family's too big. You can't fit everything. You need a new car. You just got to get there to work, get a new job, whatever it is. Well, they can take care of you right there on North Palafox Street. Get you in the car of your dreams and make sure, put up a good financial plan for you to be able to get out there. Call 479-9200. Eddie Gordon, lifelong Alabama fan. And right now that this might be a good time to come down to Gordon Auto Wholesale because, hey, you know what? You can make a deal. They just say, you know what? It's just that kind of week. Here's the keys. No, I'm just joking. They're not going to give you a car. But they're going to have some fun down there. And Gordon Auto Wholesale, proud sponsors of the Alabama Crimson Tide Roll Tide Radio Show.
You wanted a toy at the store when you were a kid. Mom said no. You wanted a date as a teenager. The homecoming queen said no. Now, as an adult, you want a car. And all the dealers keep saying no. Finally, there's someone in Pensacola who will say yes. It's Gordon Auto Wholesale on Old Palafox, just 1 block south of Airport Boulevard. Now with a huge selection of third-row SUVs in stock. No credit, bad credit, repos, no problem. Say yes to Gordon Auto Wholesale. Call them at 850-479-9200, 479-9200, and hear yes right now.
It's time for some straight talk. You know those football players who are all talk, no show? Well, big wireless carriers aren't much different. Well, Straight Talk Wireless doesn't give you the hype, just the savings. For just $45 a month, you'll get the unlimited plan with 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G. No contract. All on the same 4G LTE networks as the big guys, but up to half the cost. Savings delivered right to your wallet. Only at Walmart. Savings may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
ESPN Radio is taking over ESPN News. You can now watch your favorite radio shows all in one place. From Golic and Wingo. Oh, yeah. To the Dan Levitard Show with Stugotz.
All right, I'm available every day, thanks.
To the Stephen A. Smith Show.
I just don't understand this guy.
To the Will Kane Show.
It's my job to tell the truth.
From morning to night, the best of ESPN Radio is now available on ESPN News.
Sports Call with Davis and Justin.
Every single game, I have been wrong. I have been dead wrong. I have been so wrong.
Top sports stories, the biggest games.
With Houston's lineup and their roster, you know that they're all really dedicated. The chemistry is there, and they're hard to beat.
The weekends are made for sports, so catch Sports Call with Davis and Justin every Saturday from 11 to 1 on Pensacola's home for sports. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station, your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back to Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola, brought to you by Gordon Auto Wholesale. Get you in the car of your dreams right there. No credit, bad credit. Don't sweat it. Gordon Auto Wholesale, 2 blocks south on off Airport right there on Old Palafox. Coach, the Alabama Crimson Tide, tough loss, but let's take a look here at some of the semantics of them getting back, because right now the committee is going to make their selection tomorrow, and a lot of people have Alabama checking in at number 4 based on that. I think it's pretty obvious that either LSU or Ohio State is 1, and frankly, I wouldn't have an argument with either, but I'd hope LSU after that win. Because, I mean, if you're going to get signature points for anything, going into Bryant-Denny and winning a game where Nick Saban has more titles in his 13 years than losses at home, you would think that would be enough. I mean, that's the mecca of wins. In college, it's like beating New England in Gillette. That's the mecca of wins to get you brownie points. Yeah. And so LSU, I hope, would be 1. But Ohio State, all they did was down the road beat a team by 60 in conference. They're just one heck of a football team. They did it without Chase Young. But I think it's going to be LSU 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3. And then 4 is up to the committee. But I think based on Minnesota still needs a little more to row the boat. And then you also have a team like Oklahoma that barely beat Iowa State at home in a game where they, frankly, if you want to throw a PI on that final play, they actually lose the game. But I look at this matchup and say, I would say Alabama's going to check in at 4. I would hope. I mean, based on if they do.
Yeah, the AP poll today has Alabama at 4. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think it's LSU should be number 1. There's no question about that. Ohio State should be number 2. I personally have a question with Clemson being number 3 based on today, right now. If somebody if they were lining up against Georgia today, if they were lining up against, I'm not sure, but maybe Oklahoma, I would have some doubt. So I'm not sure about that one, but Alabama should be in the top 4. And I think they will be. I think, Bama fans really keep your head up. My goodness, what a great game that was. Both teams have a lot to be proud of. And I think they're going to meet again. I think this Alabama and LSU team will meet again in the playoffs. Now, if they end up 1-4, they'll meet in the first playoff game. But at any rate, it'll be a dilly, and I certainly would agree with you on that ranking right now.
And for Clemson, to put it in perspective, Coach and I are talking during the break because as a former NFL coach and as somebody that's chosen a path in his life in football, we even during the breaks, Coach and I are talking, especially on Mondays in a market like this, there's not enough time. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, we could talk Monday Night Football tonight. We could talk about the Steelers' big win. I mean, there's hours upon hours of coverage of what there is going on right now in football. But this is the Roll Tide Radio Show, and focusing on the game, Coach, I think that when Clemson obviously is a team that is in their mix with the competitors and the defending champions, but their biggest – at this point, it looks like they're playing Wake this week at home. Then they've got a game against South Carolina at South Carolina. And then it looks like maybe Virginia they are going to play in the game across. Every year it seems like it's just one of those kind of games where it's like, okay, who are we inserting to get beat by Clemson right now? But it would be Virginia or even Virginia Tech or Pittsburgh are sitting there with the Coastal. So any of those teams, when you put Clemson versus them in a championship, it's just like, all right, let's look at our watch and give it to them. But their next couple games, even against Wake. Wake is 17th in the nation right now. It's 7-2. They've had a good year. They beat Boston College. I mean, not Boston College. They beat Florida State because their former coach iced their own team. But if you look right now at Wake even this week, the second best team currently in the SEC, I mean in the ACC, it's a 27-point spread, and the indicator has Wake Forest with a 2% chance of winning the game. So that's the competitor that could dethrone Clemson, is the team right now they have as a 2% chance of winning and a 27-point underdog. It doesn't look good.
Yeah. You always got to remember the one team, and that's a sad commentary.
Yes,
but the one team that is going to play it like their Super Bowl or national championship game is going to be South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year it's at South Carolina. So
they've beat one of the big dogs in Georgia, so they can. They lost App State this week in Tasca. We were talking about that, but yeah, you're right, Coach. I think that's
everything goes by the wayside for South Carolina, and they'll play it. They'll put everything. They'll push all the chips on the table to the middle, and they'll go for it. So that could be one, but overall, Clemson, I just don't think they have the background here to be considered on the same par with LSU, Alabama, and Ohio State for sure.
Two things that are very important for Alabama right now is that the rest of the country, usually they never root for this, but they need teams like Ohio State, and they need teams, a couple of those big dogs, LSU's, to continue to win. Because it's inevitable they're not going to lose a couple games. So if LSU was to lose a game, let's say, a game that they're expected to win, and I don't see, looking at LSU's schedule, they've played the gauntlet of their schedule so far. But if LSU was to turn around, which is possible, and lose to, say, Texas A&M, that can happen. It's not likely, but it could. I mean, so if they lost that game, that's not good for Alabama, because then you're still going to put LSU ahead of Alabama because they held the tiebreaker in the West and they get to win their division. So they need LSU to continue to win. But the other side that's really in their favor for the long-term picture, because Alabama, it's over. It's that time you broke up. Now it's time to move on. Get yourself an apartment, whatever you're doing, just move on. You got to move on with life now. At this point, coaches know the day after they're fired, they're not waiting and saying, oh, I really wish. Okay, get on the phone and my agent, who are we going to go with next? I've been in the league for a long time. What team am I going to be with? Pat Shurmur at New York, teams like that. They got to figure things out, and that's how it works. It's a business. For Alabama fans, they got to look and say one thing that really is playing towards their favor is that the final game of the year is at Auburn. And that's going to be the last focal point before they don't, if everything goes as planned, LSU and Georgia will be battling out the next week in the title game. But Alabama, at that point, will leave their final image before the committee votes is what can we do to take it out on Auburn, at Auburn, which could be a huge game. So, Coach, that's really big that they're not ending. They play Western Carolina, I believe, in the second week. If that was their final game, to the eye test, I think that would really hurt them based on the committee would just be like, yeah, you know what, this game at Auburn to end the season, and they play at Mississippi State, which doesn't give the same credit as it has in the past years because their team's not that good. Yeah. But that's huge that they get that based on their schedule, that they sort of were back order of their tough schedule.
You're right.
Of this season.
You're right. I'll tell you, if they play at Auburn, if they beat Auburn soundly, that's going to leave a good impression. And as we know, that could very well be the case. I think in addition to that, LSU could have a very, very difficult time with Georgia. Now, like you said earlier, they gotta hope that LSU wins that ball game and Georgia doesn't sneak in there on them. But that also may push the other thing this may do. The Auburn game may do. Chad, is it may push Alabama into third place. And I think about it. They pushed him into third instead of fourth. That would be good because then they would play the second place team, which is probably going to be Ohio State. Let's just say we take right now. Let's say that moved them into third, and they had Ohio State and LSU and Clemson played. Okay, 1-4, 2-3, and so that would be an interesting scenario there too.
Well, and two, there's a lot of scenarios with that's interesting. I wouldn't be shocked either if you had a situation where Alabama has a chance to get in, and if at that point Ohio State already, who has dismantled their numbers, even though LSU has played a tougher schedule, Ohio State, even against good teams, has throttled their Wisconsin. They beat them by 31, 38-7. I mean, they've destroyed good teams. If you look right now, they got Penn State and Michigan right now, currently, before this week, 4-14 in the nation. If Ohio State was to beat Penn State, Michigan, and then let's say Wisconsin or Minnesota or whoever played them in the conference championship, I think if the committee put Ohio State one, even though I know right now we're living in the LSU, which deservingly, I don't think anybody would argue it to the death of saying, you know what, we'll put Ohio State 1 versus Alabama 4, have that matchup, and then do LSU versus Clemson. Because I don't think they want LSU Bama again in that first round. They want them to play. You know what I'm saying? They'd rather
not
see
in the first round.
So that's what I'm saying. But if you have Ohio State or LSU interchanged at that point, it's a lot of football ahead. But based on that, Ohio State's got a really brutal end too. I would agree that LSU, if they have gone through now and beat Georgia or whoever they have in the conference title, should clearly be the number one. But with Ohio State and the way they've played, I don't think anybody would be over the top if the committee says, hey, you know what, we're putting Ohio State 1, we're putting LSU 2, so they can have those matchups. You see what I'm saying? Because they would have to do the same. And frankly, about what position you are, the coaches are not as worried as much as getting a chance to win it all. Getting to be one of those 4 teams is what you work for. Coach, because it's not like the NFL where you get buys. They all get the same. It's a neutral site game, and it's neutral site, same amount of tickets go out to their fan bases, and it's just seeds because all 4 of them have the same, on paper, opportunity to win the games, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3.
Yeah, but I think what we're doing here is we're playing games, supposition games, but it's fun to do sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean that's what we do. The moral to the story is, I don't care how they stack it up, I would like to see Alabama and LSU play again. And there's only one way that's going to happen. That's in the playoffs. Either 1-4, or they both win their initial games. They're in different brackets, and they play in the championship game. I'd like to see it as a championship game.
Would you? I mean, I know this is once again, but since we're on this, we're having fun with it. One game today. Would you rather see LSU versus Alabama or Joe Burrow LSU versus his former team in Ohio State? If just one, just get to watch one game.
I'd like to see LSU Alabama play again. I really would, because I think Burrow. There's so many stories. There's the overall LSU, but then in particular Burrow versus Tua, and the Alabama receivers, best in the nation. I don't know. I'd like to see that game again.
It's great. Football. This has been a lot of times you're going to put a team every year. It seems there's a team that slides in there. And no offense to them, because Notre Dame record-wise deserved to be there last year. They went unbeaten. But the year before, Michigan State's or Washington's, there's always been that one team that's like, congratulations, but we know that let the other 3 teams battle it out. Or there's always been like Georgia, even though they didn't make it last year, nobody argued that Georgia was a worse team than Notre Dame. They played their championship game in the SEC title game. This year, it really feels like we're going to have 4 monsters. I hope for the sake of it that we can get, because regardless, Clemson's schedule's bad, but Coach, they're actually getting better. The one North Carolina game has been focused in, but I did some research last week on the show and showed that they're beating teams right now by an average of 41 points since that game. And they've beaten teams of the likes of FSU's, beaten teams, and I know that's not a ton, but they're beating teams that are battling out with other teams by 41, 48 points. They're destroying the teams. So Clemson's also, when you got Trevor Lawrence and Justin Ross and T. Higgins and ATN and Dabo Swinney and Venables with the defensive mindset, they still can beat anyone in the nation. So it's going to be, if you get Clemson, Alabama, LSU, and Ohio State, gosh, let me grab my food and let's tailgate, because that sounds like a great time.
That's a good one.
All right. We're coming back for more. It's the Roll Tide Radio Show. Coach, appreciate it as always. We're going to play a clip from Nick Saban here to finish. Actually, let's get to some more NFL talk when we come back, and then we'll play to finish the show with Nick Saban, if that's okay.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
That'll be fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Coming back for more right here on ESPN Pensacola.
There's a lot going on right now, and broadcasters are on the ground covering all of it, bringing you the weather, the traffic, and breaking news, all while entertaining you 24 hours a day. Someone needs to tell you what's going on around the world and in our hometowns, and that someone is us. We are free radio. We are always there. We are broadcasters. Visit wearebroadcasters.com or text radio to 52886 to learn more. Furnished by NAB and this station.
Tonight at 10 Eastern on CNBC, and all new Back in the Game.
Remember Ryan Lochte? At age 34, he's having to pack up his medals, downsize his home, face a very uncertain future. That's where I come in. I'm Alex Rodriguez. Now that I'm retired, I want to give back by helping ex-athletes and entertainers that damage their reputations and their finances and want to get back on their feet.
Why did you lie?
I didn't lie. Can Ryan rebuild his career and provide a stable life for his growing family?
Back in the Game, all new tonight, 10 Eastern, CNBC. Get yours.
Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes. No credit, bad credit, bankruptcies, no problem. Over 250 vehicles in stock. Third row SUVs and trucks. Everyone's approved. Gordon Auto Wholesale is the bank and can help you get into a nice, clean vehicle. Carfax checked. Need a new car? Gordon Auto says yes. Can't buy one from the other dealers? Come see Gordon Auto Wholesale on Palafox just 2 blocks south of Airport. Or call 479-9200. That's 479-9200.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back. Roll Tide Radio Show with you right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante, Coach K. Stevenson. We'll get to the big stories and more. We do have a call coming in, so let's go ahead and go to our phone lines, weighing in on the Alabama-LSU game and more. Caller, who's this? All right, caller hung up right there, so and they can give us a call back. 850-623-1330 is the number. Coach, it's a big week, and the Pick'ems contest each and every week. This week, Jesse, the winner right there, 42-37 for the Calverts in the Heights, $25 gift card, and the 2 hours with 2 people at the Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. This week's game, I think it's pretty obvious if it's in the South, it's Georgia and Auburn. That's a huge game, oldest rivalry in the South, and one it's very historic, and it's also got a lot of ties this year because, you've got a team in Auburn that even though they've lost, their loss is very similar to the way we look at Alabama losing to LSU. It's not a loss that makes people in their mindset say, okay, this team's done. They battled. Auburn battled with Florida, and they battled with LSU. And those are their 2 losses on the road in the swamp and in Death Valley at night in tough environments. So a lot of people are not going to look at that and say, okay, they deserve to be shunned. They beat Oregon, who's in the mix. They've beaten a lot of teams. So I look at this and say, this is a good football game, and the spread comes out on that as Georgia -2. But that's them pretty much saying, hey, look, this could be a toss-up. This is a big game in a lot of respects for the way Kirby Smart, Gus Malzahn, the way they're looked at and the image of their fan base, and also for the playoff scenario.
Yeah, it is a huge game, and we all know what the possibilities are for Georgia or for any team, actually for Georgia or Florida. Florida could end up, if Georgia gets beat, Florida could end up in the SEC championship game. And if they won it, who knows what, So, but I think realistically, Georgia has to know that they've got to take care of business this week with Auburn. They can't look ahead to the SEC championship game or in the playoffs possibly or anything else. They've got to take care of this game with Auburn. But let me tell you what's going to be interesting. Georgia has one of the best offensive lines in college football. They're huge. I think they average about 330 a man.
Coach, they're 20 pounds heavier than the average NFL line.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
And I think they have an outstanding quarterback in Fromm. I like him. They have a good running game. They can play defense, and Kirby Smart will do a good job of designing a defense. I think it's going to be a very, very rough afternoon for Auburn if they can't shut down one of the two. But more than likely they'll try to shut the run down and force Fromm to throw the football. So we'll see how good they are. But anyway, it's going to be an outstanding football game and one that'll be good to pick. I'd like to see some of those picks come in on that one.
You know what's really funny, Coach, is sometimes in life, and there's movies made of these kind of scripts. Of people those where you're rooting on, like you have to have the the ex-wife becomes your boss or something in these movies. That usually comedy movies you'll see on things like that, or something happens with a story of the guy, your biggest arch enemy becomes your best friend, and then you end up saving the day in a movie. Well, the difference here is I look at Auburn and Alabama it's a hated rival for many reasons. They make commercials about it. Iron Bowl gets a little bit. I mean, things happen. Come on, I hope people understand it's football, but it happens. You get people in gun battles, gunshots, and killed in Montgomery and places in Birmingham last year over someone said roll tide at a party they shouldn't have, and it just gets. It's one of those fierce competitors. Listen to the Feinbaum Show during Iron Bowl week, and then get back to me. But the difference with all that, Coach, is Alabama is Auburn's biggest fan this week. And I know somebody even hearing that goes, ugh. But you think about the semantics of this.
Yeah.
If Auburn wins this game against Georgia, it boosts Auburn. And it sets up Auburn and Alabama for even a more marquee signature matchup in the Iron Bowl. Sure. Secondly, it eliminates pretty much Georgia from the contention of if Georgia was to beat LSU in the title game or what happens in the SEC, or even Florida gets in at that point. They have to have a situation where more than likely that's going to draw Georgia away. Because if Georgia was to beat LSU with one loss and then LSU only has one loss, Alabama's on the outside looking in. It'd be LSU and Georgia would be the two teams. So this is a huge – this is a big week where Alabama fans – all around are going to be rooting for Auburn, and that's got to hurt them inside. But they got to root for Auburn to win this game. I could see an Alabama fan walking up, and I want to see the Auburn fan hugging him, being like, "You got our backs today?" And be like, "Get off of me," But that's what's gonna happen this week in college football.
You're right. This will be Auburn's biggest fans will be Alabama fans.
I love when that comes together. Looking at the situation right now with what's going on in the NFL, I want to get to this real quick.
By the way, I want to mention something about either tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yep.
Jim Haslett, former head coach of the New Orleans Saints, and great guy, coached in many different places in the NFL.
You drafted him, right, Coach?
Yeah. When he was playing, he was an all-pro player, linebacker, great one. But anyway, he's going to be in studio with us, sitting here with us. And so if people out there over the next day or two, if you have some questions, you might want to think about it and either text them in to us or call them in while Jim's here. I'm sure he'd be glad to answer them.
I think that's great. And I remember the host, it was actually Davis, was sitting in, I think, for Jordan, one of the shows when he was in last time. I was sitting in the parking lot. I remember like it was yesterday. I was sitting there, and I had a meeting to go to, and I texted the guy, I'm going to be about 5 minutes. It was a friend. It was like, I'm going to be there 5 minutes late. And okay. I was sitting in the parking lot, though. I just wanted to listen to the end of that. Really good stuff when he's in here and just talking about the game. You guys both having two NFL coaches in one room in a market for Pensacola. I hope people respect what that is. I'm saying that. You don't have to, Coach, but I'm saying that's huge. Just have the opportunity to have two NFL coaches talking about the game. Because right now in the NFL, there's so many storylines going on, and it's a very intriguing season this year. You have, what to you was a bigger statement game, the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the LA Rams or the Tennessee Titans coming back to beat the Chiefs?
Well, those are two great games, and to put a choice on them like that, just say they're both great games. But if I had to choose between the two, I'd say the most impact is with Tennessee beating Kansas City, because now Tennessee is firmly in control of their destiny. They're in the hunt. Kansas City is now further removed from any hope of a bye week going into the playoffs or certainly home field advantage. It's not going to be there. So that was a big week, no doubt about it. And also when you look at Pittsburgh, nobody expected Pittsburgh to beat the Rams, but the Rams, listen, there's some real problems there, and I've got some question marks, which we can talk about at a later date. But I have some question marks about Goff, their quarterback too.
Yeah, there was a lot of passes, bad passes, and the Steelers defense playing with a lot of pride, and they need that right now. What Mike Tomlin, what Pittsburgh's done, sometimes teams in sports, San Antonio Spurs, St. Louis Cardinals, Pittsburgh Steelers, there's a cultural thing where, it's like you expect them to win games because they've done it for so long. And even you look at the roster, though, and you start going, okay, Mason Rudolph and Jalen Samuels, and Juju Schuster's even hurt right now, Smith-Schuster, and no Antonio Brown, and the team's not that they're not that great of a football team outside of the defense is really battling. They're playing tough for him right now. And the Steelers, to be able to beat teams like the defending NFC champions that are getting healthier, that got Donald back, they got all the that's impressive for them to pull that off. I mean,
it really is. Listen, they've won 6 or 7 straight now, and give Tomlin credit. I think he's done an outstanding job of, one, holding that football team together, and number 2, going above and beyond, and winning football games at the same time. So
now 5-4 on the season, and but the big 5 wins, and for the Steelers to do that under the pressure that they have now, they're in the playoff mix now, and that's something that they couldn't say at the beginning of the season when Roethlisberger was out getting fined for having to watch on the sidelines, which was ridiculous. Looking at the other matchup I want to get to, you just talked about it. Tannehill, what I think a lot of people forgot because he sort of was drifted out of the league when you get benched in Miami. That's not a good thing. But he ends up coming back. He's had a great story. But I think a lot of people, what they realize is, I hope people remember, he's one heck of an athlete. He was a wide receiver at one point, and the way he ran over the defensive player for Kansas City to get in the end zone, that was cool to see. Very rarely you see a quarterback put his shoulder down, hit him, and then go forward for the touchdown, for the 2-point conversion. But what a great win for Tennessee and their fans.
Oh, it was a big win for Tennessee. Big win for Tennessee. Listen, they're firmly back in the picture now, so don't count them out. And Kansas City, again, back to the what's been their Achilles heel for quite a while now, Chad, we've talked about, is their defense. They just do not play defense well enough to win consistently in the National Football League.
What's the percent, as a head coach that's been in the locker room before, what's the percent chance that long snapper is back with the team next week for the Chiefs?
Well, if there's not one out there, chances are real good that he will be back.
Maybe his friend on the couch. I mean, the way he snapped, there is no – that was a bad snap. You can't be doing that in that situation.
Yeah, I know, but let me tell you how those people don't grow on trees either. We had I can't tell you how many times we had trouble finding one that could make that snap consistently, and the work that we put in with them when we did get them in. We'd go all day practice. He would have somebody over there with him doing nothing but snapping. Then even put him back in the downstairs weight room at night, snapping the ball over and over and over again. I mean, just never stopping. It takes so much time, and they're not very many of them. You realize that ball has to get back there in such a short time. And it has to be on the mud, right on the belt buckle. That's where you want it every time. Yeah. And it goes at 15 yards.
And during this time of year, Coach, it's sometimes like that Green Bay game, you're doing it in 25 and you can't see weather. You coached in Buffalo, I mean,
and it's 15 yards between your knees. Between your knees, you got to snap it going backwards. Listen, there's some quarterbacks can't throw the ball 15 yards forward, much less between your legs going back. So it's a real art, and they're not easy to find.
Well, it was a big win. Patrick Mahomes seems like a good guy. I hope even though I don't, because he seems like at one point the biggest rival to Tom Brady, the way they played last year. It may be different this year, but he seems like a okay guy. And all that, like, there was no everything was high-fiving, guys, it's okay. We lost that. He set him up even for another opportunity. Even at the end when it looked like it's done, he went 40 yards right down the field. I like Patrick Mahomes a lot as
I
a
do
human
too.
being.
I think he's an outstanding young person, number one, and he's an outstanding quarterback.
And teammate, too.
Teammate, he's got all everything you're looking for there.
Team's just not that great. They got a lot of speed at the receiver position.
Well,
but
defensively.
Offensively, fun to watch. Hardman, how many people said, is that Tyreek Hill? And then they have another guy they have two guys like that.
The speed they have on that football team is just unbelievable.
Even their tight end is fast, and Travis Kelce. So they're fun to watch, and but their defense, not so much. When we come back, we're going to talk a little more Alabama football. We'll also talk some more about the big games coming up here. Remember, Jim Haslett this week, and we talk football with Coach K, the former Saints coach and friend of Coach, will sit in here, have some fun with us. Looking forward to a big week ahead right here on ESPN Pensacola.
It's time for some straight talk. You know those football players who are all talk, no show? Well, big wireless carriers aren't much different. Well, Straight Talk Wireless doesn't give you the hype, just the savings. For just $45 a month, you'll get the unlimited plan with 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G. No contract. All on the same 4G LTE networks as the big guys, but up to half the cost. Savings delivered right to your wallet. Only at Walmart. Savings may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
With 16 national championships, 26 SEC championship titles, and a team that delivers so many All-American players, what do you say to that? ESPN Pensacola presents Alabama Roll Tide Radio Show on Mondays starting at 1. Hear from local experts and former players about what's going on in Tuscaloosa. Get ready and let us hear you say it. Roll Tide Roll. Join the Alabama conversation this Monday at 1 o'clock. Brought to you in part by Gordon Auto Sales.
Tonight at 10 Eastern on CNBC, an all-new Back in the Game.
Remember Ryan Lochte? At age 34, he's having to pack up his metals, downsize his home, face a very uncertain future. That's where I come in. I'm Alex Rodriguez. Now that I'm retired, I want to give back by helping ex-athletes and entertainers that damage their reputations and their finances and want to get back on their feet.
Why did you lie?
I didn't lie. Can Ryan rebuild his career and provide a stable life for his growing family?
Back in the Game, all new tonight, 10 Eastern, CNBC. Get yours.
Talk football every day with Pensacola's own Coach K.
Credit a great performance by Garoppolo. And I love the way he throws the football. He's got all the things going for him.
Every weekday, noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola is your home to UWF Argos football. Catch every game, home or away, on Pensacola's home for local sports. ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back, Roll Tide Radio. Final segment. Let's get to Nick Saban and the press conference after the game. And, well, obviously you know what to expect.
I think they really played well in the game. They made plays when they had to make plays on offense, and they're a very, very good team. Great crowd, great atmosphere. Thank our fans for the support that they give us. And the bottom line is, especially in the first half, we didn't play very well. We don't want to waste a failure. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from the things that we did and didn't do today. I think that everybody's got to make a commitment to finish the season the right way. We don't really control our own destiny, but if we finish the season the right way, we can see, where it takes us. We've been in this situation before. So, I think the big thing is everybody needs to learn from the mistakes that we made today and try to get better. Obviously, the way we got started when we turned the ball over on the first drive, when we have a great drive, didn't finish it, turned over a punt, snap, got 12 guys on the field when we get an interception and a turnover. And then, we trusted the quarterback before the half and, threw a pick, and they scored 14 points in the last 30 seconds of the first half. So a lot to overcome. but I have to tell you that I was really, really proud of our players. In the second half, they really fought hard to get back in the game and actually got themselves back in the game. We couldn't get a stop on defense when we needed to. Had a couple opportunities to stop them and didn't. And, offensively, we certainly scored a lot of points, and, onside kicks are difficult. Ball's got to bounce your way, but at least we gave ourselves a chance to win in terms of the way we fought back in the game, and I'm really proud of our players for that. So, as an organization, starting with me and everybody else, we need to learn from this, do a better job, give our players a better chance to be successful, and our players got to take advantage of that by going out there and executing and making, the kind of choices and decisions that's going to help them be the best players that they can be. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that, in this game.
And there it was from Nick. Look, that was a hard-fought battle, and he understands it. It was one, obviously, he would like to be on the other side of, but a lot of credit. And that's the kind of game, if you're a football coach, if you're a football fan, in the first half, especially the first half, trailing 33-13, there were plays made that you never see Alabama teams do, beat themselves. They had 12 men on the field when they were about to get them off the field. They had moments where they threw a pick right before halftime and gave LSU another touchdown. The fumble at the goal line from Tua, just things that happen that you don't see, and I think he made it clear. It's your Roll Tide Radio Show, brought to you by our friends at Gordon Auto Wholesale. When everybody else says no, they say yes. Check them out right there, 2 blocks south of Airport on Old Palafox, and check out Gordon Auto Wholesale today. Proud sponsors of Roll Tide Radio. Alabama, a tough loss, but they're not done, as Alabama fans know. They've seen this script before. We're coming back for more, and coming up, Paul Feinbaum Show. I'll be back on the Sports Drive today. Thanks for joining us right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
In Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.